This episode was made possible by our friend and supporter, the Scribble Den. Looking to improve your band's sound? How about a podcast? No problem. Give the Scribble Den in Omaha, Nebraska your business and hear your sound soar high above the rest.
Welcome, everybody, to a very special edition of the Weekly Geekly. This is our first ever horror guest that we've ever had. And who better to help me kind of lead the conversation than my best pal, Benito Garcia, the genius behind Wetworks Special Effects. He's going to be starring in a new movie up and coming. Not going to talk about it. I'll let you reveal it.
Okay.
I'll let you reveal it later. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag.
All right,
but he's got a lot of stuff going on. I thought, who better to kind of dig into this slasher killer movie than Benito with me? But the man of the hour, you guys know him from the movie Terrifier and the soon-to-be Terrifier 2, the one, the only, Art the Clown himself. David Howard Thornton is in the house, guys.
Hey, everybody.
Woo! Yeah. And we're super happy to have you, man. You said yes to this, and I was like, I get to talk to a killer clown? Oh, this is like a wet dream for me, man. So thank you.
You're welcome. Just mop up after.
Gross.
So I was kind of looking into like just who you are and what you do, and I was very very surprised to find you kind of grew up doing children's theater.
Yeah, of all things.
Like what a
I still
change.
do that kind of stuff too.
Yeah. Would you say that
Yeah,
brought a lot of skills into art, do you think?
Yeah, I really did. That's where I really honed my skills for physical comedy, because kids are more into physical humor than verbal humor.
Yep.
So I really cut my teeth doing all that then.
I think just the physicality, you can tell that you've had experience, at least in that world. It translates really well in a character that doesn't speak. I think one of the first things Benito said was kind of have to you're almost forced now to think of Nick Cage and Willy's Wonderland, right, and how effective it is.
You guys are in the same boat. You both are in movies where you don't say a word, and both movies kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you don't see a lot of anymore. Everything's really, even in the silent slashers like Jason and Michael, there's so much behind the surface you don't see.
Yeah.
But it's so rare, I guess.
I think in those films also, you don't get, it doesn't translate to how much that character is enjoying what they're doing. It's almost like Michael and Jason are just mindless
zombies.
Kind of.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They're not getting, you don't see the joy in their face after they've killed someone.
And you totally see it in Art's face.
Right.
You can totally tell you're enjoying what you're doing. Which is something I think
it's all pure enjoyment for Art.
Exactly.
That's why he does it. He's not doing it out of revenge or anything. He's just that's just fun for him.
Which is so much fun for me. We all go to these movies to see people die. Let's not shy away from it. That's the fun part. You want to see how it's done. You want to see practical, not a lot of CGI, which you guys really deliver on that end.
Thank you.
And it's just so much more fun knowing that the killer enjoys it. It's not like some revenge plot or like in Scream. I love Scream, but the whole time you're like, oh, he's not getting laid. I would be mad too. But Art's just evil. Art's a 10 out of 10 on the evil scale. Knows he's evil, is fully aware of that evil, and I think that just magnifies it so much.
Yeah, he totally embraces what he is and acknowledges what he is, and he revels in it. That's what I love about him. He's like I said, he doesn't do this out of out of malice or anything like that. It's just pure enjoyment for him, and I think that's what makes him scarier. So it's I kind of like that side of him.
It's completely deranged in a way.
Yeah.
the feeling you put in the eyes. The eyes are so important to me when he's glaring. That first scene where she's coming out of the bathroom in Terrifier and he's just standing there, and then he does the whole that whole, I can't even mimic it. You do such a whip of the neck and everything. It's so scary, but the eyes, it's all that emotion where he's just beyond reason. And I think that's what makes it scary for me is, he's quiet. You're not going to hear anything. That's one thing. But the emotion that you're able to put into it, like you're saying, with enjoyment, but not just enjoyment. You can tell when Art's pissed off. Right. You can tell, damn it, I'm out of bullets. Yeah. You can see the emotion. which I think was fun to see you kind of play with the prosthetic and what you could do with it.
That's what I enjoyed about it, because that was one of my main concerns, was like how animated can I be with the makeup that I was wearing. And so like when they did the makeup test for me, I actually went to the bathroom for about 20-30 minutes and just sat there making faces and just seeing how well everything could read.
Did they
I just wanted to make sure.
Did they think you were being all method at first? Like, oh, don't bother him. Like,
I don't know what they might have been thinking I was taking a big dump. I don't know.
David, you're like running late, man. You got to come. You're like, give me a moment.
Yeah.
That's funny. How many makeup
I'm
tests?
doing my thing. Well, do your thing and be sure to spray afterwards.
How many changes were there to the makeup? Did it happen pretty quick, or were there some changes that you requested?
No, that was pretty much it. It's like, oddly enough, they did an actual sculpt of my face, and Damien did it, and he put it on me. And you actually see that one sculpt. It's in the scene where the cops get me, and it looks like I have bigger cheekbones for one. That's at one time in the movie where I had like slightly bigger cheekbones, and Damien just did not like that sculpt. And so we just kept on using the original sculpt they did of Mike Gianelli, who was original art. So I'm actually wearing his original mask, but wow. It's just from the sculpt, because they have to make a new mask for me every single time I do it. So
sure.
They just have to meticulously glue it to my face so it actually conforms to my face, because it's supposed to conform to Mike's face.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how hard is that? Does that make it a harder process? Does it take longer because of that, or have you kind of gotten to the point?
It might take a little bit longer. Okay. Yeah, that's more of a question for Damien, because he can actually compare between the two, But I mean, it still takes about 3 hours to do. If I don't have any like blood and battle damage, then like when I had the blood and battle damage on my face, that takes even longer, because we usually have to like sync it up to previous scenes for continuity. Yeah. Which is a bitch.
Yeah. Every little blood splatter and every little spray of blood, you gotta.
It is such a pain. We always joke about that on set too. I'm doing like the comic book guys, like, yes, in scene 503 in Terrifier, his blood splatter was a little bit off, and I totally did not buy the rest of the movie for the believability worst movie ever.
Absolutely horrible. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just totally ruined it for
me. We worked on a movie where the girl had a black eye from day one of shooting, 20 days later at the end of shooting, and we had to match that black eye every single time.
Oh, God. All the different... Because, bruises are not easy to do, because there's so many different colors in bruises. So you're having to match the exact hues in the certain... Because you got a little yellow here, a little purple here, a little black here, and...
I feel your pain.
Oh, God. Oh, that's a pain. That's got to be such a pain. I'm just glad to be the canvas and not being the person responsible for doing all that.
You're the life under the canvas.
Do whatever.
Funny.
Yeah.
Now, I was surprised, but after I got a cameo from him, because I was like, ooh, aren't the clowns doing cameos? Okay. So very, very thankful for that, by the way. You did a little promo for my horror show.
You're welcome.
But I was very intrigued when I heard that you sounded a lot like the Joker. So I did some research, some geekly deep diving, if you will. And we found out behind the scenes that David Howard Thornton has played the Joker before on stage.
Well, yeah, I did it on stage for a monologue competition.
I thought that was great. That was the first one I saw on YouTube. And I almost wet myself once. I was like, that was really good. The physicality, like he did the Killing Joke, the whole you're one day away from being just like me speech, that whole monologue.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I've never heard someone so close to Mark Hamill. But like you weren't, in my eyes, you weren't doing a Mark Hamill impression. You were taking bits of Mark Hamill and applying it to yourself.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. Because, I don't want to totally just do a Mark Hamill Joker. I want to take, hints of him, because I think his version is the best version that's out there, bar none. You're never going to beat Mark Hamill's Joker. That's like Mel Blanc's, Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Anybody else that does Bugs Bunny sounds kind of like him, but there's something special about Mel Blanc's Bugs Bunny. It's just like, yeah, that is Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that being said, if you had to pick a live action Joker, who would it be?
I would say Romero.
Okay, not a bad one.
Yeah. I would say he was the closest to the comic book, especially at that time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
Yeah.
Because that's back in the kapow days, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then we got the where's the trigger days, and that's just completely different. And then you get your Lego Batman. It's just, there's so many different,
Oh, yeah.
so many different Jokers and Batmans.
Different versions.
And then,
but yeah, I think, Romero's was the best live action version.
Hell yeah. I love that you stick to the old school.
Yeah. When I heard the promo.
Especially when you see how much he changed because like when you see him in interviews, he's a totally different person, sounds completely different. He did a whole different voice and everything for the character. And that's he just totally threw himself into it. And it was great.
Oh yeah. And it adds to the character even more for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. When I heard you were a Joker guy, I giddied up and I was like, ooh, I'm a Joker guy too. We're going to be friends.
And then more bodily fluids.
Yeah.
I'm so picky about my Jokers because that's the one thing that drives me crazy, especially with the recent live action versions of him. I'm like, it's like Hollywood tries to do something new and creative with him. Let's go a different route with him. Like, no, just stick to what was written. That's what the fans want to see. They want to see the comic book brought to life.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly right. Nobody wants a new interpretation of something that works.
Yeah,
I agree.
And that's honestly
something that's got 80 years of history behind him.
Oh, completely. And you can take that same ideal and apply it to art, though. Because look, I mean, the last famous clown killer we had for the last 30 or so years is Pennywise. Now think about Pennywise and how he looks. They're completely different. Mm-hmm. One talks, one doesn't talk. One uses a gun and weapons, one doesn't. It feels like Damien and you have done so much to differentiate the character and make it singularly identifiable on its own, which I really tip the hat off, my tiny hat off to, because that's got to be hard. You're going into an industry that doesn't have a lot of killer clowns. And at a time, when All Hallows Eve came out, 2016, right?
All Hallows Eve, I think, came out 2014 or 13.
That was right when the clown pandemic happened. The clown terror happened when everyone was dressing up as clowns. Yeah. It was kind of in that era. So to come out in that era when he's the only well-known clown, I think that was a ballsy move, to be honest. But it paid off, Oh
yeah. Oh yeah. I was like, well, Damien, with art, he intentionally made him to be the polar opposite of Pennywise. He's like, okay, who's the most popular one? And he's like, okay, it's Pennywise. So I don't want to be mimicking him at all. Let's make him the polar opposite. Art doesn't have hair. Art's completely silent. Art is black and white. Art uses props, weapons and stuff like that when Pennywise doesn't. So he did everything to make him the complete opposite of it.
Yeah, it completely shows. And I just really appreciate that because it could have gone so different, if you hadn't have taken those different approaches. And you could have been very close to everyone being like, oh, that's just more violent Pennywise. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's good that those things were done for Art the Clown. But man, dude, watching that first movie, I have to preface this by saying slashers are my favorite genre. They're they're what got me into horror. They're why I keep watching horror. If anyone badmouths slashers, I'm like, let's go outside. I hate you. They're so much fun. So as a slasher fan, I immediately enjoyed the movie just for what it was. But dude, those effects and the fact that you were all practical with that, holy shit. Mm-hmm. There was a couple scenes that I never do this, and I cringed. When you're like, ooh, like some people do in American History X when the guy gets curb stomped, where you're like, ooh. Yes. I had 2 or 3 of those moments in that movie, and I was like, okay, now they're making a second one? What the fuck? It's going to be even more intense. So I don't even have to ask. I already know you guys are going to up the ante from that first movie.
Oh my God, yes.
You have to. There's no way that you're just going we might saw someone horizontally. I'm gonna cut his head off and not bash it in. So I'm really excited to see where you guys take that, because that first one.
It's ridiculous. This is one of those things where we decided to just swing for the fences because we're just like, well, shit, did we set the bar too high for ourselves with the hacksaw scene? We're just like, Jesus. Well, we might as well just throw everything we have into it in part 2 and see,
Yeah.
why not? That's the thing. That was our whole attitude towards everything we're doing. Well, why not? Why not try this? And so I would say our kills in this are pretty gnarly. We don't hold back. We definitely don't hold back. Oh boy. One of them actually, it's weird because I think the pandemic kind of even helped this kill because we had first started filming the first phases of the kill right before we had to go in lockdown. And I think what we had originally planned for this kill would have been totally satisfactory. But Damien is like, well, now I got all this extra time on my hands to actually sit back and construct more prosthetics for this and flesh this out even further. So why not? And so that's what he did. So we ended up going back and filming it in December. And we basically scrapped the whole beginning part of that kill, everything we had filmed. We're like, yeah, that's great. But this is going to totally just revolutionize what we had originally planned. And it took us a full week to film this kill scene because there are just so many elements to it. It keeps going. And it's just like this poor victim. You're like, good God. It's like, I think people are going to think this is torture porn just because of this one kill, because it's mean. It's just such a mean, violent, gory kill. I mean, Damien, even when he was first editing it, sends me a text like, dude, I'm actually getting nauseous right now editing this thing.
That's awesome. See, honestly, when people call something torture porn, I see that as they deserved a badge of honor. Like Hostel or Saw or any of those movies. I feel like torture porn as a descriptor is a word for the squeamish that don't appreciate it as much. But they're like, it's like a derogatory term. Like, that's torture porn. Like, you're getting off on it. It's like, no, there's an art behind this. And they made me think it was real. Like, literally, they made me think this was real for 30 seconds. And I came out of my life. Like, that takes such skill.
Well, it shows if somebody puts the tag of torture porn on something, it means it affected them in a way that they couldn't deal with, and they had to put a label on it.
It gets a real visceral reaction out of people that way.
And that feels good.
Oh yeah. And it also shows how believable the prosthetic work was as well. If it affects people.
Yeah.
God,
how much time does he spend online? Like, I would spend on some of the most underground, horrific websites of actual murders and kills and things like that. How much time does he spend on that, or does that just come from his deranged mind?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think it also comes just from his past. It's like he's a huge horror fan. So he's been watching horror films since he was 3 or 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
So he's got a database in his head of so many. Damien is not just horror. He's just a cinephile.
Yeah.
You can the best way to bond with Damien is to sit down and talk movies with him. He loves, and that's what we do in the makeup chair all the time. We're always talking movies and all that kind of stuff. We're debating things. I mean, we recently just had this big, huge debate on Facebook between the two of us about Justice League, the Snyder Cut, because we actually had opposing views on it. And I think people thought we were mad at each other. Oh, no, this is what we do all the time on set. This is what you hear in the makeup chair every single day.
There's someone hearing about this happening and oh my God, are they not going to make Terrifier 3 now? Oh God. No, dude, people just love bonding over movies. No, that's awesome.
For sure.
I love that. I love that you guys can have that kind of connection as creators, because it really helps. It helps you maintain the level of work. Like you're saying, you took all this time to reshoot something to make it better. If you guys didn't have that kind of a connection together, it might not have been so easy, or come so straightforward, which is nice. Yeah. So
yeah, I think there would probably been some actors out there oh, screw that, we already started filming it. I'm not going to go back and refilm this stuff right now, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I was like, no, let's do this. I mean, I think this is going to be even gnarlier kill this way. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Hell
and like
yeah.
the actor involved with it was totally on board for it as well, despite what they had to go through. So
that tends to happen.
Yeah.
People want to get killed in the most worst, horrible way possible when you're dealing with actors.
That's awesome.
How are you going to kill me?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Here all the
I want it to be grand. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when they're in the moment of it, they're like, oh, this is not as fun as I thought it was going to be. Like, no.
No, this is
being
work.
Covered in copious amounts of blood, and it's winter, and you're freezing, and you're like, I can't wait to take a shower.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask, what were the conditions like on Terrifier? Was it brutal? Were you?
Yeah,
it was brutal.
Oh yeah. And both films we shot during the winter months, and it's cold here in New York City.
Yeah,
and just like. And like a lot of the locations, especially one of the locations we're doing Terrifier 2, we were filming in Philly, was in this basement of this building, and it was freezing cold, so there was no central heat down there, so we had to carry heaters around with us. And I mean, I know I was miserable with what I was wearing, being covered in blood, but my co-star Lauren Lavere, who plays Sienna in part 2, like her costume that she's wearing, you've probably seen in the teaser trailer, is like this Valkyrie costume. You know, it's just very minimalistic, and it's like, oh my God, she would just be sitting there just shivering for like hours on end. And I was like, yeah, it's like that. She's tough. She's tough. I know I could be a whiny little bitch at times. I'm like, cool.
I'm sure it's funny to see you like complaining in your art outfit. He's like, I'm cold, and they're like, dude, you're a killer. Like,
yeah, funny. You actually have layers on. She's like, I have a bikini on. Like, you're right, and I look like an asshole.
Oh my God!
Thank you for keeping me grounded.
That's a good segue, actually, because we were talking about locations.
Yeah.
So on that first one, the basement with all the pipes and the plumbing and the
long hallways and stuff. Yeah.
Who's your location scout? Like those are amazing and lit. They were lit beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's our talent of our team there. It's just like, I mean, some of those like that. All that was real locations. None of that was set dressing. Like that bathroom you saw was just that disgusting. And all that room with all the tires, that was there in this place we were at in Trenton. This building was disgusting. It had no central heat, no running water, nothing like that. And it was just, I think it was being used as a chop shop or something like that. Wow. I don't know. It was like when I'm down on the floor, when I come up wearing the skin suit, I came up from that floor, and everything that had touched the floor was completely black. Whatever was on that floor, I was like, if I'm immune to COVID, it's because of that building.
Yeah, there's your COVID shot right there.
That we were like filming part 2 in as well. But those tunnels you're talking about, that was actually that was a different location. That was out at Staten Island at Seaview Mental Hospital. And those are the tunnels that they brought TB patients down after they had died to go burn the bodies.
Yeah, right.
That's brutal.
How many?
Yeah, so those were spooky as anything.
Wait, no, there's a scene where you see an oven. Is that the oven?
Mm-hmm.
That's the oven they put people in?
Oh, no.
Mm-hmm. As far as I know. Because we were in that room, and I'm like, who am I breathing in right now?
Yeah, that's really brutal.
Wow.
I even think I saw a bone, like some kind of bone, and I don't know if it was a human bone or an animal bone, but I saw a bone in a corner just covered in ashes. And I'm like,
it's human bone.
Turn the furnace off too early, you know?
How many scenes were written or rewritten based on really cool locations?
Yeah, that's a good question.
We just found the locations off of they just synced up right. Now, I will say there were some stuff that was done in part 2. And the big location where the big finale of the film takes place, because we just had to see what we're going to deal with in this location. So so a lot of that depended on, you know, Damien he had stuff written down, but then when we actually got the location, he toured the place and got a lot of ideas. He went back and rewrote everything to match the location. So
that's
I think it worked out even better.
Yeah, that's good when you're not stuck on something. Like, it's got to be this way.
Right.
It's cool when you can deal with your surroundings and make it even better.
It makes it so much more believable, too. Like you said, none of that was set dressing. You could feel that it was a real place. Like, I didn't watch the movie and go, oh, my God, you can tell it's like a fake set. Like, that's the worst, you know?
It looks so gross.
Unless it's like a slasher movie from the 80s, it don't work. And I'm a huge 70s, 80s slasher guy. Like, that's my jam. And I heard you describe this character and kind of the movie in general as a love letter to 70s and 80s slashers.
Oh, definitely.
And I went 6 to midnight immediately. I was so excited about that statement. I was like, wow, okay, he's into slashers. Now I feel even more stoked about the next movie because I know that you're going to keep transferring that creepiness over. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh yeah. We do so many homages in both films to like previous horror films. That's just, it's just there's so many little tips in my tiny hat to different, slashers and other horror films. I think it's kind of fun, and Damien does that on purpose. There's so many things in the first film. Starting from the opening credits with Art getting ready, that was a total homage to Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, with Freddy in his workshop.
Yeah, we got some really fun questions. Some fun questions are going to come up based on some of the older slashers.
Ooh, yeah. We'll get to those in a sec. For you. That's awesome. Well, unless you want to ask one now. Why not?
Well, yeah, we can sprinkle them in.
Yeah, let's go for one right now.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. Okay, so the one was, if Art had a choice of who he would like to have a crossover fight with, would it be Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, or
Ash Williams? Yeah.
I think Ash would be fun. Because I think the other three, it'll be more like, okay, we're gonna buddy up during this.
Yeah,
we're gonna be like, okay, we're both. Especially if like Freddy and Art, it'll be more like, I like your style.
Yeah, I can see them becoming friends instantly. Like I can kind of tell that you and maybe I'm stretching here, but maybe there was some inspiration behind Freddy for Art.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
In his mannerisms and how he almost the German expressionism that is used in Krueger, you can kind of tell was an influence on Art. So I feel like that would just be.
I even say Art is basically the bastard child of Freddy Krueger and Harpo Marx.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
That's so perfect.
That's good.
So Ash, that would be really fun though. That would be interesting to see how Ash approaches Art, because as confirmed in the first movie, he's not mortal anymore. And I say anymore because I have a small little theory about Art that I don't know if I want to tell you, because I could be so right that we have to cancel the interview.
If you're right or wrong. Yeah.
So I at least have this running theory. It's not fully complete yet. We still obviously the second movie is going to probably shed some more light. My working thing right now is that Art was human in the first movie. Because people are like, he's immortal. I'm like, okay. Came back. I think he was human in the first movie up until the point where he killed the girls, then killed himself. Because this is Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he unknowingly performed some sort of ritual on Halloween by sacrificing these 3 girls, or 2 girls, and then killing himself. I think that's why he came back, and something happened in hell, or there's some kind of hoodoo going on. You know what I mean?
Related
something
to Halloween.
Yeah, related to Halloween. And it got me thinking, and I'm sure this is the biggest stretch, but maybe he's Sam Hain, the spirit of death of the harvest season.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. Who knows? But I do know you can't kill him so easily, because I'm one of those nerds, David. I pick things apart. I'm such a big nerd. So of course, when the trailer dropped, I'm sitting here looking through every little clip of the trailer, and I noticed there's a specific scene where Art is pissed and walking forward with a bullet coming out of his eye and through the back of his head. So I was like, holy shit. Keeps adding on to my theory. I really want to know if I'm right or wrong. Who knows? Maybe he's a demon. I don't know. But I think some kind of hoodoo's going on, voodoo.
Maybe they'll love your theory so much they'll just rewrite the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Who knows?
The exclusive.
I can't. My lips are sealed.
Oh, I know. NDAs and all.
Yeah. I love all these fan theories. They're so much fun to read. And I think that's what's fun about leaving so much of that a mystery.
Yeah.
It's sometimes when you find out the truth behind something, it just it's no longer nearly as interesting.
Yeah, you're
like,
right.
oh, well, that's what it is. It's
right.
You look at Freddy, we didn't know who Freddy's true background until 5 films in.
Yeah. Which, you didn't need to. You knew he was a killer, and some people argue, like you're saying, that once you learn it, it's kind of, that takes all the mystique out of it.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Like, I want to learn more
Just like
about art,
Joker.
but yeah, same with Joker. Exactly. He doesn't have one story. He has 17 that constantly get confused in his head because that's just more fun to him. And I love that.
Yeah.
So it's
if you're
fun.
gonna have a pass, might as well make it multiple choice.
Yes. Killing joke. I love it. Perfect.
That leads into our next question.
Yes. That's
All
a
right.
perfect segue.
Are you ready for the next one?
Segway.
All right. So if Art could team up with a clown character, a killing clown, would it be Captain Spaulding, Pennywise, the Crew, the killer clowns from outer space, or the Joker?
I think it would be either Spaulding or Joker because they're more like on his level.
Yeah.
I guess you could say. Yeah, and like in terms of sadisticness, but also like they are actual clowns.
Yeah.
Right.
That way too. So it's like, the killer clowns are an alien race, and Pennywise is actually,
True.
not actually just takes the form of a clown. So
Right.
I think there would be that kind of mutual respect there too. So
Oh, totally. They're putting on their makeup together in the mirror, and like, and Art's sitting there putting his stuff on. Spaulding is too. I could
touch
see
each
them.
other's makeup
Yeah,
just a
they're
little bit.
booping each other's noses. I could see it. The bonding situation there. That'd be
and
great.
I've literally done that with Sid Haig too.
Oh, no way.
We're at a convention together getting our makeup done at the same time in the same room for our photo ops.
What a great
So that was-
memory.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Sid Haig.
It was amazing. That was an amazing experience. It was one I will never forget. It was cool in the moment, but like, knowing just a few months later he would pass away, I was like,
Yeah.
wow. It was kind of like a passing of a torch in some ways, because like on his way out the room, he turns to me and goes, "See you under the big top, kid."
Oh my God.
Man. I just got chills down
Me
my
too.
legs.
That's so cool, dude.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's an amazing story. Like, wow. Yeah. Rest in peace, Sid Haig.
Right.
A true horror icon that is never ever gonna be forgotten. So.
Yeah.
No,
Legacy. For
no,
sure.
I'm like he like what he did with Spaulding, especially in that first film. He was not really in the film that much at all. He was just basically at the beginning and just a little bit near the end. But that's what everybody remembered.
Yeah,
Right.
he tied it all together.
It's like Boba Fett. Like a really short part, but still,
so
a fan
memorable.
favorite. Yeah.
But Boba Fett sold out action figures,
Right.
in the billions, and like, it's the same with Spaulding. He was the mascot of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Which was perfect.
It just
that would be fun.
There were so many crazy characters in that movie for him to stand out in such a way just is a testament to his performance.
Oh, exactly. And I get goosebumps again just thinking of how cool it would have been to see if eventually like you could get into a Firefly movie with Spaulding. Like how awesome that would be. Like art would just be this like silent, obviously crazy demented guy that's with them, but I feel like he would just really fit in, like I mean, think, how they accepted Tiny and how they accept all these different kinds of guys. Like they would love Art. They would let him loose on people. I think like it would be so much fun.
Oh yeah.
That's a good answer.
I totally agree.
See, we totally loaded that question. We knew that you love Joker, but you surprised us with Spaulding. Because I was also like, imagine how Joker would use Art. I don't even think he would use Art. They'd just be like roommates. Like he would just hang out with Art on the weekends.
I think Joker would be like, wow, this guy's nuts.
Yeah. He's like sawing people in half and Joker's like, what? Like, even I'm not that bad.
Dude, you're taking it a little bit too far.
Oh my God, that's so great.
House meeting.
Yeah, house meeting. We're going to need to talk.
We've got to talk.
Yeah.
It's like, what you did to Harley the other day is unacceptable. Even in my book. You don't hang her upside down like that. Now I have to find another one.
That's so
you know
great.
how hard it is to find a psychiatrist these days and age that can easily go crack like that and look good in a leotard?
So I got to ask then, you're obviously a huge Batman fan. What's your favorite book that Joker is the main villain of? Is it Killing Joke?
I used to be.
Yeah?
That used to be, but I mean, like, it's that and Death of the Family.
Oh.
That story arc. Those two are neck and neck with each other.
The second one, right?
Yeah, the one where his art taken off his face and stapled it back on, and it's rotting and everything like. But that's when those two really delve deep into his psyche. And you, especially Death of the Family, you really start to understand who he is as a character, what his motivations are, and what his relationship is with Batman.
Yeah,
why he is so obsessed with Batman. It's that they have this wonderful this wonderful moment in the book that really helped me understand the character in a lot of ways, where Bruce is talking about how he's noticed Joker's eyes change when they're around Batman. Like people dilate a certain way. He said, the only time they ever do that is around me. And the only time pupils dilate that way are when someone is in love with someone.
Yeah.
Like obsessed. And it's not like he's romantically in love with Batman.
It's infatuation,
It's just this obsession he has with him. He's just like, and that's why he kidnaps every single member of the Bat family. It's just like, he feels that his family has made him weak, that they have taken away what made Batman Batman. He can't stand it. He wants Batman to be Batman. He needs that rivalry. He needs, because they are the different sides of the same coin.
Right.
And I love that duality between the two characters that they really build upon in that book. And it's a great story too. It's just a fantastic story.
And the artwork is so creepy. I remember that birdcage scene with Robin and all the dead insects, and I'm just like, God, I'm scarred.
Yeah.
Like, it was so brutal.
And it's also the one where that's where Harley finally says, screw you, I'm leaving you.
Because this was right before the Suicide Squad New 52.
Yes.
Yeah. Because then he comes back in the funeral with the acid rain and tries to and kidnaps her. But I remember that. Yeah, she finally says buzz off, and that was a huge moment in comics history.
And it's because he had locked her up in this room with all these skeletons of all these other past Harley Quinns, and he's like, "What? You thought you were the only one?
Yeah.
No, you were only a means to the end. I never loved you. I only used you because I needed you for certain plans. You were nothing to me. You were just a means to the end." And I was like, I love that.
Yeah.
That's when she's like, wow. It's like the rational part of her brain finally takes over. Mm-hmm. The Quinzel part of her brain. She's like, wow, this guy is really abusive. This is an abusive relationship, and I need out of this.
Did you ever check out the White Knight series?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, I fell in love with the idea of Joker having the dual personality disorder. And Jack coming back and trying to help and this whole struggle, and then Harley finding out she's pregnant with Joker's babies. Like, it's a huge storyline. If you guys haven't checked out White Knight,
that moment with her and Black Canary is just great.
Yes, it's so rich, and the character depth in those books. Sean Gordon Murphy really knocks it out of the park. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think Batman's at his best when he's against Joker. The one thing that I guess when we're talking about art in terms of how, we're talking about Joker, I wish art had a more defined enemy. I wish there was a final girl that steps up. And hey, I'm sure I know we can't talk about it, but maybe in Terrifier 2, this is my prediction. I think that we're going to see a final girl that's going to fight back a little more. And because that's the thing that the first movie did. It paid homage to the tropes, It showed respect to what came before it, but then it also subverted those slasher, what people would call rules, in not necessarily a negative way, but in a very surprising way.
Yeah. We even talked about who we thought the final girl was going to be.
Yeah. And then she gets 7 shots to the dome piece, and I'm like, nope, never mind. Guess you're not and then even the final girl, one could argue she's not even really a final girl because, she survives, but she's forever, for lack of a better word, like stained by art's evil.
Yeah. Well, Terrifier is basically a version of Killing Joke.
Yeah.
It's all about that one bad day story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, completely.
That was the whole point of it.
Yeah, because that's all it took for her.
One bad day to reduce a sane person to lunacy. As you see what happens to her, when she attacks the TV host.
Which I never saw coming. When you pulled that full circle at the end of the movie, I was like, holy shit. So now I'm thinking, I think that the scene in Terrifier, the opening scene, when he's getting ready, I think that is from Terrifier 2.
Oh, bum, bum, bum.
I think that the whole montage of him getting ready and putting his makeup on, going out for the night, I don't think that's actually from the first movie. I think that's supposed to be set in the second movie. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not. Find out. Who knows?
Well, he is watching the whole entire news story.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's got to be after the morgue. Oh, we're putting it together, folks. We're gonna crack this puzzle with, tonight. No, no.
Fun observation there.
I love. Like I said, I peel apart every detail in this kind of stuff, and I've been doing it since like I think my first slasher movie was Texas Chainsaw, and that really, man, that scared the shit out of me as a kid because you didn't see anything.
They didn't show much.
It's not like Terrifier. Yeah, you don't see shit, but it's what you don't see. Your mind puts it there, and. You know, I remember being a kid and being like, I saw her get hooked, but you never do. Mm-mm. So then to come to a movie nowadays like Terrifier where it's like, oh no, you see it all. And like even in that hack scene, you saw just enough to make it look real.
Yeah.
And I rewatched it today and I'm sitting here laughing and I'm sitting here going, why am I laughing? And I rewind and I watch it again. I'm like, I'm laughing because at the part where you're cutting through her in the very beginning, because when you unveil her, she's like shaking because she's probably so cold and panicked, you know, and you're like, oh, you see her legs shake and you're like, oh, that sucks. But then you start cutting into her and her legs are still shaking. And all I keep thinking is, I wonder if there's two people down there just shaking both sides of it while he's sawing it, or like how they got it to appear like she's still shaking. Like, I love picking apart that kind of stuff. So this movie was
exactly what they did.
I love it. I love it. I love
they're shaking it and I'm
God, just awesome. Tearing away through them. Oh no, you're glitching.
I'm sewing away and they're
No.
How is that possible? That's not possible.
Now, I pay my internet.
It's Spectrum. I don't know. I'm looking at my little thing to see what my internet speed is right now on my phone, so I can.
So it was two people, though. I was right. Two people shaking a doll around while you're sawing it. That's perfect. That goes to show, man, you watch enough of it and you start realizing, like, oh, wait, that's how they did this. Like, you can kind of pick apart a little bit, you know? Like,
it's tough being a makeup artist and watching the movie.
Yeah, I'm sure. Tough. And then thinking how you would approach that, too, and be or get inspired by it.
Yeah, or inspired. Yeah. You're 100% right.
I'm sure you get so much inspiration from stuff like that. Right. Benito put out his own reference book a while back through your special effects company. Yeah. It's all reference material for making different cuts and lesions and burns and decapitations and deglovings and Jesus, dude, it's I can't read it.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's so realistic. It's so like, I mean, some of that's real stuff for reference.
You were talking about your guy getting a little sick from editing his scenes when I put this book together. It's actual real medical images and things like that. And I had to save the last chapter, which was skin conditions.
Ugh.
And so it's like weeping pusses and just gross weeping sores. And I can remember as I was editing the book and looking at these pictures, I kept thinking, I swear I can smell this. Like, it's so unbelievably
so bad.
Disgusting.
That's how I felt when I watched Terrifier because of the building.
Yeah.
Like literally, that's how I felt. I felt like I can smell grease. I can smell just like
the humidity
decomp or something in there. Like, oh, it just felt so... It felt like I was getting contact hepatitis just by watching the movie. And I had to go like clean up afterward. And not even for like the normal, like, you know, like Cannibal Holocaust kind of reasons, but like, God, it was just filthy.
Yeah.
What did you film it on? Was that on film?
That's a good question I was going to ask.
Or was that digital?
It was digital. I think we filmed it on Red.
Okay, but it looked like film.
It's the filter.
It's very grainy. It's got that grindhouse look.
A filter to it.
It's beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Immediately kind of captures that grindhouse spirit,
100%.
which we're both huge fans of. So 100%. Instantly fall into my DVD category.
Intentional. Yeah, I know. Like some of the reviews that were out there, like, oh, the film quality is like not so great. I'm like, yeah, that was on purpose.
Yeah, don't you get it? Like, we did that for a reason.
Yeah, it's like it's an homage. Don't you know what an homage is?
I'm sure you've seen like Death Proof and Planet Terror. I love that whole effect. I think my favorite part about the entire movie, and it's not even like a part of the movie, it's the fact that the reel like cuts out halfway through the sex scene and like burns out and does all. I'm like, God, I want that in more movies. Yeah. No, we were so close. Yeah, I love the old look. Man, no side boob. Hell yeah, rewind it. God, speaking of side boob though, that's a perfect segue to another scene I wanted to bring up. The scene that you call your Buffalo Bob or Buffalo Bill scene. Ugh. That just seems so uncomfortable. So like it seemed like it correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he showed up that day and they were like, guess what you're doing today? You know what I mean? Like, was that as uncomfortable as it seemed?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. It was like literally 2 days before, because that's not how it was written.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like it was written where I was originally wearing the body pieces over my costume.
Okay.
And like 2 days before, Damien's like, Dave, I got a really sick idea in my head. I don't know if you're gonna like it though. But it's like, and he'll hit me with his like, well, why don't we do that scene with you naked and all that on top of you?
Yes.
And I'm like, oh God. Like, who wants to see my naked ass on screen? I'm like, but that would be really freaky and sick and demented knowing this guy just took off his clothes and put someone else's body parts on him and just decided just to walk around like that. I'm like, that is so demented. And I'm like, yeah, because I've never wanted to do nudity before because I'm like, I'm realistic with myself. I know I'm a human scarecrow. No one wants to see me like that. No one. But I'm like, if Catherine, who played Dawn, if she can expose herself in the manner that she exposed herself for that, that scene.
Yeah.
If she's going to do that, then I can do this. It's
admirable.
It's going to be much freakier if we do it this way. So yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
I'm glad you did because it was so disturbing. It added.
Very Ed Gein of you.
Oh, very Ed Gein of you. Yeah.
It's funny too because that's one of the few areas of the film where there's a little bit of CG, because
really
the funny backstory because like the morning of, because I don't know if you noticed, but I'm also not just wearing her scalp and her boobs.
Oh yeah, you're wearing her vagina.
I'm wearing her vagina.
Yeah. And
most people don't notice that. And the morning of filming, Damien messages me, say, hey, Dave, bring cocksock with you too.
Oh, no.
We got a merkin for you.
Yeah, I'm like, a cocksock? You mean like a condom? He's like, no, just a sock you're going to wear over your junk so people don't see it.
And right, like you're just supposed to have one of those lying around.
Yeah, like I just had one.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. He says bring a cocksock, but then he also says you're going to wear it on your junk.
Yeah.
Just so you know, you're wearing it on your junk.
The cock-sock is for your junk.
It's implied.
It's not for your cock. It's for your
rooster to set and put it on the rooster.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
And so I show up and I come out and I have this bright white tube sock underneath the vagina that I was wearing. And you see it because, well, thank you, Dad, and genetics. And I'm like, he's like, oh no, you should have brought a black one. I'm like, you're racist.
You're racist.
He's like, no, everybody's gonna see that white. It's gonna show up so much.
Oh,
I'm
no.
like, oh shoot, I didn't think of that. I'm sorry.
Why does my cock have to be so big?
Yeah. Damn my big